Hello, it's Jack Tutor here of Attention Magazine. Welcome to Crucial Listening, the podcast where I speak with musicians and sound artists about 3 albums that are important to them. My guests this time are Wukir, Suryadi and Shabara from Senyawa, from Indonesia, whose new album Al-Kisah comes out next month via 39 different record labels, I believe was the exact number, from across the world. So the duo went about this in a really interesting way. They just completely forfeited exclusivity over their material, and instead of working with one record label to put out Al-Kisah, they opened the doors and said, right, if you want to release it, you can. There was an open call. The labels themselves are responsible for designing their artwork, their own merchandise for the record, and you've got a real wonderful host of labels involved in putting this incredible record out there, including Phantom Limb over in the UK. You've got Yes No Wave in Indonesia, Senko in Taipei, Soft Brute from Yogyakarta, Soy Division in Berlin, Burning Ambulance from New Jersey, whole host of really awesome labels, and the record itself is amazing. It's really cool that they've spread out this record far and wide, because it does mean that hopefully loads of people will get to hear it. You've got Wukir's handmade instruments that he's been refining over the years. You've got Ruli's largely improvised vocal approach. Both of these musicians are involved in really pushing themselves, whether through instruments or through the voice, in as many different directions as possible. It really feels like the strings and vocal cords are being strained to the edges of their ability. I love this record so much. And I hope you enjoy this conversation. We talk about a compilation that they're both involved in, Gugus Gemar, which is looking at how Asian music traditions may be reimagined. We talk about a record by Sawung Jabo, which confusingly was released under the name of Iwan Fals, an entirely different musician, as Wukir explains. We also finally talk about a very interesting record by Church Universal and Triumphant, bit of a cult record. You may already be familiar with that one. I had a lovely time speaking with them. I was so excited, having listened to Al-Kisah many times through, just to dig into that with these guys and also talk about their important records as well. So find Al-Kisah wherever it may be available near you. Support your local record label and head over to attentionmagazine.co.uk/crucial listening for more information on Ruli and Wukir's picks. Cool. This was a great one. Hope you enjoy it. This is Senyawa on Crucial Listening. Ruli, Wukir, welcome to Crucial Listening.
Yes. Hello, Jack.
Thank you very much for joining me on this podcast. So we are going to talk about your 3 important records that you've picked. Before we get to those, I want to ask a few questions on your new upcoming record, Al-Kisah. Firstly, when did you start working on this record, and what were the first pieces of this album to fall into place?
Well, the album was started right after the lockdown was lifted in Indonesia. We both, during the lockdown, stayed in different cities. And then in September, we got back together in Senyawa studio in Yogyakarta. And then we start to come up with a new strategy for our new album. And then we make the album as a priority for us to be able to move on, to start moving, to get things moving. We first had to make the album first, and then we started make some one or two songs, and then we decided to involve friends who do the artwork also join with us in the very beginning of the process, and then we recorded in a place called Elo Progo, which is the meeting between two rivers, or Elo and Progo, and then so we recorded the album for 3 days over there, and then during the recording we came up with the idea of, instead of releasing only on one label because of the situation with the pandemic, and then we have to think about the new alternative of how we're gonna proceed with our music. So we think that maybe it is time for us to offer a new strategy, which is the album to be released by any labels who want to work together with us. That means if they want to release the album, they have to do it our way, which is anybody can release it. Senyawa in this case won't have exclusivity anymore once the album is released, because it's everywhere, so in the end we have like 39 labels that releasing the album, so all over the world, mainly in Indonesia. So it's about 10 labels from Indonesia, and then and this is exciting because it's a really new platform for us to use, and then it's sort of an experiment as well. So we kind of see how we're gonna work this out, along the way. But also at the same time, we found out a lot of interesting things, like many labels, for example, China, Italy, or Berlin, for example. There are multiple labels that join forces to come up with the release together. You know what I mean?
Cool.
So it keeps growing and expanding, which means also smaller labels can have the opportunity to get their hands on the album, and then each label is also encouraged to curate their own remix or reworks of the album.
Wow!
So that means a lot of people are getting involved. Something like that. And the labels also have to design their own artworks and packaging, how they want to package the album, is the merchandise, etc., something like that. So,
and are you having any involvement in that? Like, could a label put together anything for the packaging and go right ahead without your approval, or how does that work?
Anything.
Wow.
Basically. Because that's the whole point. Is the experiment is Senyawa trying to let go of the exclusivity, because we'll see what will happen if the band is no longer in control. What will happen to the album? I think anybody who want to get involved can make can take the advantage of the album or benefits from the album if they want.
Yeah. It feels like, because obviously I can see with your previous works and with this one as well, there seems to be this very strong presence of storytelling within your work. And this almost feels like it's rendering the record as like folklore, where it's passed through, through populations, through people, and the source of it is unclear, but it just, it perpetuates itself through being passed on and through being distributed, which is a really nice idea.
Yeah. Especially with this album, because the title is Alkisah, means once upon a time, a story.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I want to talk a little bit about the record musically as well. I mean, it sounds like I read an interview with you in NME where you talked about the fact that there was a very strong conceptual element or a thematic link between the first 4 records, and they kind of go on an arc, right? So where does Alkisah come out of, say, Sujud or the 4 records previous, in terms of, a concept, and also musically as well? Like, what was it about the first 4 records that told you what Alkisah might manifest as musically?
Yeah, so Senyawa started out not as Senyawa, the first EP that was released under Yes No Wave. it for free on a net label called Just No Wave. It's called Ruli Shabara and Wukir Suryadi. The title of the EP is Senyawa, which is a demo, because Wukir and I, 4 days before the recording of that album, we just met on stage. So it's the introduction between ourselves. We try to get to know each other through an album, through a demo. We try to make music together, and then that's the first EP. And then in 2013, 3 years later, we came up with the full album called Acaraki as a new band called Senyawa. Now, the Acaraki in Javanese, in Indonesian, means the science to mix herbs, And then you can see in this album, referring to the title, is we are trying to find the right formula for our music. Just by the title, you know what this album is about. It's about trying to find a formula. And then the next one, which was released under Morphine, was titled Menjadi. Menjadi means transforming or to become, So, you see it's, the formula, we're getting the formula there. We're like, kind of, okay, so Senyawa is basically, this is Senyawa in 2014 or 2015, something like that. But then the next one was a limited release LP called Puncak, or Bronsoy in Danish. We recorded in Denmark and released by a Danish label called Seiro, and then meaning Puncak. In Indonesia, Puncak means summit, or peak. So you see, after transforming, at that point, we think that this was the peak of the formula that we came up in 2013. But that album is 100% pure improvisation, unplanned, no lyrics prepared, no composition prepared, not even full equipments, because we just came to our friend's studio and then we just play with whatever is there, and it's not even mixed, it's mixed directly when I have the mixer while I was singing, you know what I mean? So it's
Wow.
a very pure improvised album, and that was the summit for us back then. Then comes Sujud after that in 2018, 18,
Yes, yeah.
So, and Sujud means return to the ground, it's frustration. So you see, after being on the summit, we decided that the album should reflect our humility, our respect towards the earth and land and soil. And that represents a lot of things, philosophically or metaphorically. And that's the South Sujud was all about, earth and the philosophy behind it. Now, that also concludes the first 10 years of Senyawa. So because in 2020, that reflects the 10 years of Senyawa, first 10 years. And then we did 2 tours in Indonesia of the first decade, to anniversary. And then after that, we had the pandemic. So basically, so when we concluded the first 10 years, during the pandemic, even before the pandemic, we already started talking about, Wukir and I, about what is the next 10 years then. So this time, let's plan ahead for the next 10 years instead of just going along just like with what we did in the first 10 years. I think now we sort of know what we are, both musically and personally. I think Wukir evolved his instrument as well.
Yeah.
Over time, from the first album through the 10 year, and then something like that.
One more question I wanted to ask. I could ask lots of questions on this album. The new record is really amazing. One thing that I've noticed, I don't know whether it's deliberate, I wanted to run it past you, is that this new record, Alkisar, seems to be almost structured like a palindrome, where it's like got a structure that goes forwards and backwards. Like you've got 2 short tracks on either end. You've got the 2 Alkisar pieces, then next in, then you've got 2 kind of very percussively driven tracks, and then you've almost got like a centerpiece in the middle. I mean, was that an intentional means of structuring the record? It was.
Yes, in terms of structuring the record, it's true because it's like the album is very lyrical. It's different from the first 4 albums because this is the first album of the second decade. The first decade of Senyawa, Wukir and I were focusing on exploring inwards our potential as musicians and a person to create the music and then mix it together with each other. And that was the focus on the first 10 years, which you can see on the first 4 albums. It's all about exploring the sound, and you can see the progress that we've made over time. Now, in Alkisah, we started to looking at other field, which is more lyrical, more story-wise. We're trying to say, okay, the last song in Sujud, the last album, was called "Return to the World," right? So that's a hint of what the next album should become, which is we are returning to the world. Now, let's use what we've learned for the past 10 years and try to apply in a new album. Yeah. So, and it tells a story. It's like an opera. That's the way when I wrote the lyrics, it's like I'm imagining the album should feel like an opera, not musically, but the feel. Like, yeah, there's the first song and the last song as like the intro and outro. What you call it in opera? It's like overture.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the overture. What the album is about. Kekuasaan. Kekuasaan means power, as in domination. So it's like what the lyric is just like this. What is the meaning of power when the end is at hand? Like that's the first opening of the song. It's like the overture, and not even the overture because Alkisah 1 is actually the song that tells the whole what the album is about. Basically, in Alkisah 1, and then in Alkisah 2 it tells the conclusion, and then closing song Kiamat after that. So yeah.
Nice.
So it's based on how it's written, the lyrics instead of the music, the way we structure the album.
Great. I mean, I love it. It's a very satisfying listen for that reason. The way that it's structured, you get to the end, you really do feel like that you've embarked on something. So I'm a huge fan of the record. I usually at this point ask you where people can seek out the album. I mean, obviously it's not out yet, but it's on pre-order in several places. But obviously with the means by which you're releasing the record, I guess people should just search for it and find a label, maybe near to them or, wherever they want to pick it up, right?
It's everywhere, don't worry. Wherever they are, they can find a label near them.
Brilliant. Okay, excellent. Well, let's go on to your important records now. So one question I like to ask before we dive into the records is how you thought about the term important when picking these records that you did. So if I could ask both of you, was there a way that you thought about the word important in order to come up with the records that you did?
The word important, you mean when you asked the question, I was thinking about as a vocalist, as not a person, as a vocalist, as a singer, asked a question like this, because as a person I listen to many kinds of music, including the stupid ones, and I for this kind of, which are also important for me, as a influence, whatever music I listen to. But what's important in this context of your podcast is I choose an album that when I listen to the album, it's like I always wanted to make an album like that, and and I couldn't find a better one, which is the album from Church of Universal.
Oh wow, yeah,
yeah,
quite a record.
And triumphant. How you say it? I don't know. Triumphant.
Yeah, that's right. And Wukir, how did you think about important when picking your records?
Oh, I just try to remember when I'm first time, like not first time, just remember when I'm like 14, 14 old. I try listen the song and then I try listen the album and then try to play with that album. I try play with that song on the album, and then try to understand what the text or what the songs, and then try to like feel the song, and then that that how cho- how I changed the that album. That yes, like that.
Well, let's go into your first important record. I'll let either one of you go first. If you give me the name of it and then just a little bit about why it's important to you as well.
Maybe with the album that both of us picked.
Yeah.
Gugus Gema is a project by the Volcanic Winds project, and where Wukir and I was involved.
Yes.
So yeah. So it's basically the double disc of 19 songs from all over Indonesia, represented by big islands like Sumatra. There are a couple of songs from Sumatra, Kalimantan or Borneo, Java, Sulawesi, Maluku, Nusa Tenggara, and Papua. So yeah. So the main islands are represented by one or a couple of songs in this album. And the album is a collection of music made by people from each area that try to give another context to the traditional music from that area. So it's like traditional, but not really, because it's something like that. So it is interesting because we travel all over these places, and there were so many, like music like this. Too many, actually. We just had to see which ones that has a great potential to be explored more by the people, or just to inspire people like us, young people, new generation to view traditional music of this era, something like that.
I mean, can you tell me about how you got involved in Volcanic Winds? I had a look at the website for Volcanic Winds. It looks like a really interesting project. How did you both become involved in that?
Christy Monfries was the initiator of the project, and she asked us to curate the Gugus Gema. So just as simple as that. And then because the very basic idea is like, the original idea was actually she was trying to see what if there are other musicians like in Indonesia, like Senyawa, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So because Senyawa is basically like that, so maybe there are others. Of course there are others, many others, different kind of approaches, of course, and styles, but the spirit are the same. So all this music that we selected, some people might say, it sounds traditional, or sounds very different from Senyawa. It's not like Senyawa, but they are actually similar in a way, the spirit, because there are context behind each song, and then it is whether musically or the social context, something like that. So it's there's always an effort to recreate or reimagining the traditional music.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you listen all the song in Gugus Gema, double disc, that like all the artists, all the musicians are there, like they try to like growing or try to express they own musicality, and then that way.
Yeah.
For me, like really nice, because actually Senyawa, like for me, like we on street how we must going, like we just follow the feeling, and then like that.
I've noticed that as well. The project calls out the fact that it's focused on women's roles in the preservation and continuation of Asian music traditions. Why was that an important aspect of this project for you?
Well, the project started, the the project was initiated, many ideas of what kind of music that we need to search. So many variables or indicators, something like that. Because of course, the sea of weird music out there. We have to be trying to fix our mindset before we started the expedition. Yeah, one of them is we try to see what is the role of women in this context, because we just want to try some different variables that might be the reason why this music are happening. One of them is that, or the other is like what is the social condition of the area, the history of the area, and then what is the regeneration process of the music. What kind of process that is happening over there.
And I'm sure you're both drawn to all of these tracks. It sounds like that they've all got a really important reason to feature on the compilation. But as we're talking now, are there any are there any particular tracks that come to mind that are maybe personal favorites, for whatever reason?
Yeah. For me is let me see, the list is track number 18. It's a long one. It's almost 11 minutes, but it was in Sulawesi, my hometown, in an area called Sigi. The area was often there are conflicts there between villages, violence, conflicts, which is unfortunate because with many reasons, yeah. And then there was this blade workshop, blade making workshop. They were accused of supplying the weapons during the conflict,
right.
Which is not the case at all. Those people are just regular people working, making blades. And so the artist collectives in that area decided to, when we came over there, they decided to use that opportunity to show their protests. So they got together in that workshop during the night, and then they prepare a performance. So, but everything is organic, you see. The lighting comes from the fire, and then the smoke, and then they are actually making blade there. But the process slowly, eventually turned into music.
Wow.
like a sound noise experiment with the motorbikes passing, and then the audience are just local people, the villagers, But they are showing that we are just like regular people and artists, get together to make a statement that we are not part of the conflict. We are not supplying the weapons to the villagers, and which is very, very strong and solid statement, Yeah. And that's why that one is my favorite. I was really touched when watching it, and you can also see the video on YouTube as well. We have the video of this as well. So yeah.
Wukir, do you have a particular favorite track?
Yes, of course. For me, it's number one. That's like young people, like she's like 8 or 9 year old, and then that's really pure. She tried to learning with his own how is the mother singing, and then she just singing. That's really beautiful for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's stunning.
It is a perfect for track number one also, because it represents what the album is about. is about regeneration. It's about the young generation trying to preserve the old tradition in their own way, which is in this case is Maria is the small child who sings, try to imitate the mother singing. Just
And then the important thing is, I think, is how she can grow up with that tradition, and then how it's 10 years again. I'm waiting for that actually.
Nganap nite pa himan jak dangi ni kamekan lati buat sangalang buat jamak tajung karang kamene peji masalah kulagang.
Let's go to your second important record now. So now we're getting to the ones that you picked individually. I'll let either one of you go first, whoever wants to do their record. Wukir, let's go for your record first. If you give me the name of it and then why it's important to you.
Yes, the lyric is really strong for me. And then on the 1993, that the song in television, in the radio in Indonesia, like very similar, and that album is really good. The last song called Dalbo, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Song number 10.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that the lyric is really nice actually. I cannot translate, or Ruli can translate that. Okay, Ruli translate ya Rul.
Ya.
Oke, sejak aku dilahirkan aku tidak tahu siapa orang tuaku.
Ever since I was born, I never know my parents.
Aku berpindah dari satu kasih sayang ke satu kasih sayang lain.
Moving from one love to the next.
Aku hisap air susu dari tetek banyak ibu.
I drink the milk from mother's breast.
Merpati terbang melintasi.
Doves flying by.
Membawaku pergi ke masa lalu.
Bring me far away to the past.
Aku tidak pernah bertanya siapa orang tuaku.
I never asked who my parents were.
Kalau memang aku merasakan ada sesuatu yang hilang.
If I feel something is missing.
Sesuatu yang hilang.
Something is missing.
The last is merpati terbang melintasi.
Doves flying by.
Membawaku pergi ke masa lalu.
Bring me to the past.
Aku bukan anak haram.
I am not a bastard son.
Aku Dalbo, anak alam.
I am Dalbo, son of nature.
Wow, that was really nice. So, was it the lyrics specifically then that made this song special to you, Wukir?
I think it's really deep, and then really like how people to expect their own life, and then the music is really good. I think that you can hear like just the guitar, and then just simple, and then just maybe just one accord. I think on D minor. I think, yeah.
Yeah, it reminded me musically of, a lot of alternative rock that I guess was quite present, certainly in our on our radio stations around that time. Like, as you say, we're talking the early 90s. So was Iwan Fowles, was he a big musician over where you are?
Huge.
It sounded like it from what I read on Wikipedia. Yeah, he was a big star then, yeah?
Oh, yeah, actually, I want talking to about that. Actually, that is not in Iwan Fals song. That is Sawung Jabu song. The Iwan Fals just collaborate with him. And because I asking to him why all the song is why all the album in YouTube, like they say Iwan Fals, because Saung Jabuse, because at that time is Iwan Fals more famous than him, and then that's more good for the like how to sell the album. That he say, and then he say too, Iwan Fals more handsome than him. But what I know is actually that is the song is from the album is from Saung Jabu. The music is I think is for from Saung Jabu like character.
And when you remember listening to this record, you know, yeah, so it's 1993 it came out, right? What memories do you have of discovering this album or listening to this album?
Because at cassette, and that way they read on cassette, and then where when I'm listen my friend cassette, and then because I really like it, and then he give me the cassette, and then because I don't have a tip cassette, and then when I'm going like every friend have the tip cassette, I'm going and then try listen at that song, and then try to play with that with the guitar.
Let's go to your final important record now. Really, it's your one. So, yeah, again, we touched on it earlier on, but if you could give me the name of it and then a bit about why it's important to you as well.
It is like an album by a church collective, I think.
Yeah.
It's a or a cult. It's called Church Universal and Triumph: The Sound of American Doomsday Cults. So yeah, so it is sounds funny, but it's not, because it's when I think about the best songs are prayers, right? Are something that comes from you, that you really mean it when you say it or sing it. You know, I think that is from my opinion is the best kind of song. You know, as a vocalist, you sing words that you really mean. And prayers are the most what you call it, that can represent that concept very well.
Yeah.
So that's why this album is important to me, to influence the way I make lyrics and sing it. You know, it's like it has to be something that you believe in. You know, something you really mean it. And these people just sing whatever what they really mean it. You know. Their decrees and call for protection, you know, something like that. So, of course, and their vocals, you know, they're just, you know what I really need, influence like this, and their vocals, and so it's beautiful, vocally, musically, you know, but also it's true. It's very deep from themselves.
Yeah, I mean the vocals are unbelievable. The chanting style, so it's like it's a record. It's got basically a sermon from the church, right? And it's got these chants that take place during the church services, which are these really monotone, really fast kind of spew of words all at once, which I didn't even think she was even actually saying words to begin with, but turns out she actually is. But yes, and quite a really distinctive chanting style, isn't it?
Have you heard this album before?
This was the first time I'd ever heard it. I listened to it yesterday, and it really blew me away. I was talking about it to my wife last night, saying how powerful it was.
Yeah, how can you top this?
Yeah, exactly. Do you remember how you discovered it?
I discovered on the internet. I don't have the LP. I tried to order it, but it's very, very expensive. What the fuck? You know, so yeah. So I think whenever I find it, I will have it. But at the moment, I only have the online downloads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think I did a bit of research about it, and apparently I think it was her son Sean who recorded a lot of these records, but they did, like, sometimes they do a wider release, so they'd release like loads and loads of copies, and a lot of those were for beginners, and so she'd be chanting very slowly and very deliberately so you could hear all the words. He said, I think when Sean was interviewed, he said that this particular record was probably one that was only given to like existing disciples, because I guess they're the only ones who can actually understand what she's saying, because they're used to her voice, right?
There is another one which is also really good. Is the different one, but different songs. There's one where they sing about the title is This is actually the really good one for first. It's called Invocation for Judgment Against and Destruction of Rock Music.
Yeah, rock music seems to be this key theme, right, in this record as well.
What you call it in English? Repel.
Right, yeah. Yeah. And is it a record you listen to often?
Not really often. It's great to listen to this often. No, not really. Just important to me, yeah.
Well, one final question I have for you both, which is, if you want to listen to a record properly, you really want to listen to every aspect of it as much as you can, is there a particular environment that you go to or a way that you listen in order to get the most out of a record?
For me, the best is alone, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Listen alone in a quiet place for me to be able to enjoy it like in full for me.
Nice. And Wukir, what about you?
No. Just every time, every time, and then, of course, with the good sound system actually.
Yeah.
And then, but everything, every time I think is for me is okay, and then I'm like to hear the music.
Great. Well, thank you both. It's been really nice to speak to you. I mean, both about Alkisah and also about your 3 important records as well. Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
And to everyone listening, I'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Thank you, Jack. Goodbye, Jack.